Hello and welcome to another episode of Sutton Impact Family Style. I'm Jason.
I'm Bill, and I want to start the show off by shouting out to the women's volleyball team at Kentucky, who are the national champs. Thrilling match between them and Texas. They only lost 2 sets the entire playoffs. Really, really a good team. And the interesting thing was that with this volleyball title, the SEC has now won a championship in every sport that they offer. So the SEC's won a championship in everything they have. They don't offer hockey, so they don't have a championship in hockey. But every sport offered at an SEC school, the conference has won a national championship.
Now, is volleyball, is that more of a Pac-10 West Coast? Is that where that normally...
It was, and this is like the first... Texas has been in the finals like the last couple of years. They remarked last night it's one of the first times that the Big Ten or the Pac-10 or Pac-12 wasn't in the championship game. But it used to be that way with softball, too. I used to call it the Pac-12 Invitational. Because there'd be 8 teams in the College World Series for women, and 5 of them would be from the Pac-12. But not anymore. Now there's the Big 12 and the SEC, and they've all caught up.
That's nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know Florida had
It's very enjoyable to watch.
Yeah, Florida looks like it's a volleyball place as well.
Yeah.
And we had courts at UCF, so I figure, it's doing something.
Yeah, it's really fun. It's really fun to watch.
And I think today's show is going to be more like a lot of little mini bits because there's not a lot of giant things until this weekend when we have the draft. But let's shout out the New York Knicks.
Absolutely.
Specifically Julius Randle.
Absolutely. The longest winning streak in the NBA.
Yeah.
Probably maybe one of the longest playoff droughts in the NBA too, right?
I believe so. And they are on the verge of maybe a top 4 seed. I mean, everybody's pretty bunched after the top 3, so it's really hard to say, especially with injuries and everything else. But you can see that team, like, they play like a team. They seem to have fun playing. They love each other. Like, everybody's excited. Everybody's jumping up and down. Everybody's cheering. It's a very engaged college atmosphere, which I did not expect from Thibodeau. Again, I apologize to him.
But maybe he's learned. Maybe he's learned his lesson.
He's still...
Maybe he's not... Maybe he doesn't have his head on his maybe he doesn't have his foot on the accelerator all the time. Maybe he knows sometimes you have to coast a little bit and let the players be who they are.
And we also have to...
looks amazing, doesn't he?
Randall is, I think, a legitimate top 5 MVP candidate at this point. I mean, they showed statistically his 27, 11, and 6.5 assists and his efficiency is on par with Larry Bird's best seasons, which is just crazy. And,
Wow.
On top of that, like, if you watch the Knicks play, we know all assists aren't created equally, And he is setting his players up. He is helping initiate. He's making players he's making baskets, from the players. It's not just, I kick it out, you hit a 3. Like, he's making the right pass. He's setting his teammates up for success. And, like, he's really leading that team.
I think he's been very impressive. Yeah, I watched the highlights all week, and he's bombing long-range threes. He's driving to the hoop. He's making assists. He's rebounding. I mean, he's obviously the leader of that team. And he's probably a good person to be the leader of that team.
And he's one of those guys, like, I know he's always put up numbers, but he's got to be one of the guys latest in his career. Because he's been in the league for 9 years, I think. Or is it 9 years? No. It's 24.
I don't know, but it's longer than you would think.
It's longer than you would think.
Yeah.
To really pop on this level. And then, I also read an article about the Knicks culture, and it's not a knock on Rivers, young Rivers, Austin Rivers, but they brought him in. They didn't think he was the right guy for their team, and they got him right out. And it seems like they've really focused on culture and making this team a good, a team that gets along and likes playing together. And they look, they put together a good coaching staff, and they're really looking good.
Well, the NBA needs a New York team to be great. And if they have 2 teams in New York that are great, with Brooklyn and the Knicks. But it's funny, people will gravitate back to the Knicks just like they would
The
like
Lakers.
the Lakers in LA. I mean, the Clippers are there and they're good, and the Nets are there and they're good. But the heart and soul of New York is the Knicks, and the heart and soul of LA is the Lakers. So it's great to have good teams, but it's important for the flagship franchise to be great.
It definitely is. And right now, I think we are just 1 or 2 games away from an all New York first round NBA playoff. Knicks and Nets, which would be, cross town.
Outstanding.
Yeah. And especially with the Nets, we just don't know which of those the big three they have who played together. I saw the crazy stat the other day, Dad, that James Harden has played more games this year with the Rockets full lineup than he has with KG and Kyrie on the court at the same time.
Yeah, I saw the number. It was like less than 12 games, I think.
Yeah.
Where all three have been on the court.
And, Harden's got, a little bit of an injury issue. Durant I know he's coming back today, I think, was the last thing I read, that he's playing today. But he's been off a lot. And then, Kyrie is Kyrie. So.
Yeah.
And I know
Kyrie gets us mental health days every once in a while.
Or mental health weeks, yeah.
Yeah.
And Kyrie also has a bit of an injury history as well, so.
Yeah.
But I would like to see all three of those guys on the court at the same time, see what they can do.
Yeah, that's what I've been enjoying. Staying on the NBA, I've been really enjoying watching Luka play.
Oh, yeah.
He is unbelievable. He's one of those guys I would pay to watch, and that's how I always describe it. It's like I always get free tickets. He's a guy I would pay to watch.
It's really sad because I know Porzingis missed yet another game. Like the few games he's been out on the court, and he looked like the Porzingis of the New York Knicks.
Yeah, he did. He looked really good.
He's been a huge asset, but you just said, he can't be your number two option with Luka. Like, they got to find a way to bring somebody else in there. And I don't know how that's going to happen, but.
He's a guy that when he's healthy, he's really, really good. And when he's not, he's no help at all. And that can't be your two. That's like your three or your four that occasionally can step up. But you're right. You need a number two to complement Luka. Last night, I forget who the player was. He had a career high playing with Luka.
Yeah, number 7.
It's an amazing assist last night.
Yeah, it looked like he understood the pick and roll really well, and he knew how to run the floor. And if you know how to run the floor, Luka is going to find you. And then it's just
easy. Powers, but I never heard of him before.
No, it was just easy dunks. But Luka, if you could use another perimeter player.
Yeah.
Not a point guard, but.
No, he needs a shooting guard that can hit the three that will open up the inside for him, and so he can penetrate and dish or penetrate and go to the hole or do whatever he wants to do.
Or somebody that, can run a quarter where, if Luka's off, he can, he needs somebody that can also get his own shot. What he kind of needs is like an upscale Drew Holiday, a guy that is perfectly fine being the second or third banana, but has the talent when needed to be better than the second or third banana.
Well, I'm really looking forward to the NBA playoffs, and do you like to play in?
It's exciting. I mean, I get the arguments on both sides. Like I said, for me, if it ends up being, a year like this year, if we get to watch Steph in a play-in game out in Golden State, who's just been crushing it lately, I would love to see that. That's going to be fun. But at the same time, I do feel like if you play all year, like 8 playoff spots per conference in the NBA, it seems like plenty of teams to get into the playoffs.
It almost seems like with a play-in, well, you're being punished for finishing 7th or 8th.
Pretty much.
Because you haven't accomplished anything until you win in next round.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's tough. But I do like the excitement, and I do like the fact that, like, if it was a Steph Curry or a Zion or somebody that I really want to see, I like the idea. Last year, it was easy to accept last year because it was a COVID year and you were in the bubble, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Except that Phoenix crushed everybody and didn't get to play.
Yeah.
So there's some crazy stuff. But, I give the NBA kudos for trying to do new things and trying to liven things up and trying to be fun.
Yeah, and in my head, I've thought about different ways. Like, if there was a way where instead of the play-in game, all the lottery teams, played like a one-loss tournament, and the winner of that tournament was guaranteed, to pick no lower than 4. But I don't really know how that would all work out. Something,
I think that'd be fun too. I like that idea.
Yeah, I don't know how the logistics would play out though once you did the lottery, but like if it was just like you're only because if you get a pick better than I guess no lower than 4, but you get if you pick 1, 2, or 3, you just get that spot and everything else is in order. I don't know, something where you still give everybody incentive to play hard and towards the end, and then obviously the better seeds would get the better chance of getting that 4th pick. which would also, eliminate tanking a little bit. I'm sure somebody smarter than me can figure out a way to make that work, but
Well, I was looking at the cellar dwellers last night, and it's Minnesota, Orlando, Detroit,
OKC,
OKC, and Houston.
yeah.
Those are all the under 20 teams. I thought Oklahoma State's under 20 or not, but Oklahoma State's a bunch of number one picks. I just don't know if they're all protected.
They have a lot of picks that, hopefully they can find some overseas guys or guys to stash because, again, it looks incredibly exciting. And I know they didn't really have a choice. Like the guys they traded, they got maximum value from everybody, including Chris Paul.
Yeah, they did. That's one team you can't call out. They did a good job in return on their investment. They did.
And again, I don't know how long he'll want to stay, but Shea is a good.
Decent.
Yeah.
I mean, they're not a bad team to watch. Like the Pistons are a bad team to watch.
Yeah, and have been.
Since they made those trades, are a bad team to watch. Minnesota beat Utah last night. Minnesota's beat Utah two times this year.
I know.
That's incredible.
Yeah, I want Oklahoma City to get the number one pick. I want Cade Cunningham.
Cade Cunningham keeping them.
Him and Shea Gilgeous playing together. And if not them, I'd like, obviously we have an Orlando connection, so.
Yeah.
And Orlando just has been devastated by injuries. Yeah.
Yeah. It's been, that's been a franchise that hasn't found themselves since Dwight Howard left.
No. They had a poor GM for a while.
Franchise when we first went there. They were fun to watch, great of the games. I mean, they could play with anybody. And now it just seems like they're trying to reinvent themselves every third year.
Well, they've gotten bad luck where again, part of it's just the general manager and the guys doing the picks. But I mean, the year that they pick, if there's 3 good players in the draft, they're picking 4th. And, you draft a bust like Mo Bamba. The second, Jonathan Isaacs, like he's starting to play well. He gets hurt. Markelle Fultz looks like he's resurrected his career. He gets hurt. Aaron Gordon never really just, was able to be more than what he is. And that's not what the Magic needed from him.
That's exactly what he was. But remember when he got drafted, he didn't have a shot.
Right.
He's a great inside, great rebounder, great dunker. But you have a shot. You have a shot in the NBA.
Yeah. But he can be, the 3rd or 4th banana on Denver, and be a long wing that can guard. And, you can't leave him open from 3. But
he can have a spot. He can, if he gets a role that fits his talents, he's more valuable to you than trying to force him to do something he's not capable of doing and being disappointed because he can't do it.
Yeah. Because he was viewed as Orlando as like, this is going to be our guy. This is going to be our one or, one of our 2 best players. And like, that was never his destiny.
Well, we're about 3.5 weeks away from NBA playoffs starting, so I'm excited about that.
Yeah.
Switch to baseball for a minute. Who did we say Tatis batted against last night?
Bauer. Trevor Bauer of the Dodgers. Bauer of the Dodgers.
Bauer of the Dodgers. And Tatis hit a home run in the first inning, came back up, I think in the 3rd or the 5th, hit another home run. And Bauer had done this thing in spring training where he was closing one of his eyes and pitching. And, and kind of making it seem kind of funny that he was doing that. So when Tatis hit the first home run last night, he put both of his hands on his eyes like goggles and looked at the mound and then ran the bases.
Yeah, I loved it.
And hit the other home run. So they were interviewing Bauer after the game, and Bauer goes, "You know what? That's fine. You should, if you do something great, you should celebrate. Because whenever I do something great, I'm going to celebrate." He goes, "You just have to understand that some days I'm going to get you, and some days you're going to get me." He goes, "But I'm fine with it." And you and I talked about flying, and I said, that to me is refreshing.
Yes.
Instead of saying next time he comes up, I'm going to hit him in the leg or hit him in the head, and you can't disrespect the game. Celebrate the game. That's one of the problems with baseball. You spend so much time respecting the game, you don't celebrate the game, and that's why it can be really boring. So I was really excited to see that, and I love watching Tatis play. He's very celebratory. He's a great player.
Oh, he's fantastic to watch. Yeah, and he's got personality.
I've been watching Ohtani. Ohtani's hit some mammoth home runs, like 450 feet.
Yeah.
He's fun to watch, and in games when he pitches, He's got a great curveball. He's fun to watch. I mean, there's some really exciting players in baseball. Let them be them.
Because they need it.
They do need it. I mean, you can do all the rule changes you want, but if you don't excite me that I want to play or I want to meet these players, I'm not going to come. I'm not going to watch.
And again,
I'll play the show instead, right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, if you're a kid, I think back to like, even you want the best player, but you're also, when I was a kid, like, I mean, I loved the Fab Five of Michigan because they had attitude. I liked the U when they were the U. I mean, if you're trying to get youth involved, that's why they loved Iverson. Like, you want the guy that's a little bit of edge,
Mm-hmm.
and then you grow into appreciating other players. But it's that sort of great player who's also got that rebellious spirit. That's the guy. That's the people that you're attracted to as a young person. Like, that's what you want. And
you were going to talk about the show, and one of my points would be nobody would play the show if you had to respect the game.
no,
If you had to keep all the rules and all the players on the same team, you couldn't be creative, you couldn't do fun things. Nobody would play it.
yes.
But the fact that it's popular is in large part due to what you can do. And so why don't you go ahead and talk about that?
All right, so the show launched, and like we talked about, I think a week ago or 2 weeks ago. The big deal is that it's no longer a PlayStation exclusive, so you can play it on Xbox, and you can play it on PC. But the biggest thing with Xbox is Game Pass, which is the best deal in gaming, which is basically like the Netflix of video games.
Mm-hmm.
And they put the show on there, which I'm sure Major League Baseball wanted too. So now, it's the only game in the last 3 weeks, the big game that appeared on Game Pass. So if you're paying for Game Pass, you're going to download it and play it at least once. Here's this game everybody's talking about. So now you're at least engaging people. But the game itself, if it offers everything you want. You have every single roster of Major League up through minor league through Major League. You can play in any stadium ever in baseball. Forbes Field, Ebbets Field, Fenway Park, the new parks in San Francisco, PNC Park. Wherever you want to play, you can play. You can adjust the rosters. You can use dead players.
So I can have Babe Ruth and Roberto Clemente on my team.
You can have Babe Ruth and Roberto Clemente on your team. You can have, this year, the special edition was the Jackie Robinson edition. So you can play with Jackie Robinson. They
Satchel
have
Paige and everybody else.
Satchel Paige. They have,
Man, I would do that. I don't even play video games, and I would play that game.
They have 5 different levels of difficulty. So, if you're an old school player and you played RBI back on the Nintendo like we had in the basement, you can basically, you pick your pitch and it's basically one button to pitch and you sort of like use the stick to aim where you want to throw it.
Mm-hmm.
Or if you're playing super high, it's like origami of your fingers to try to get the pitch across. So there's lots of different ways you could do it, And again, with batting, you have a simple one where you can have, contact hit, regular hit, or power stroke, whatever you want to do. And it's just 3 buttons and you're just timing it. And then if you get to the higher levels, you're also picking where the bat is swinging through the zone. And, they have fielding assist on. Great tutorials. I mean, it's an incredible package. I mean, the one thing I would say, and this is just me personally, and you can also set the number of innings you want to play, which I think is key.
That's good too.
Because, when I first downloaded it, I played a full 9-inning game. And I have to be honest, even when you're playing, you're pitching, you're hitting, you're fielding, you're involved in every single aspect of the game. 9 innings felt long. I'm not gonna lie. Even in a video game, it was exciting and fun. But
Mm-hmm.
The next time I played at 6, and 6 felt like a nice number of innings. But again, it also looks incredible. Like it's the kind of game where if you walk past it and you're not paying close attention, you'll think baseball's on TV.
Well, let me ask you, is Madden going to be available on Game Pass?
Madden technically is currently, but the way it works now, like if you have Game Pass, every first party Xbox Microsoft game comes day one. So when the new Halo comes out, Halo is coming day one to Game Pass. Right now, EA has a program called EA Access, and EA Access is part of Game Pass. But with EA Access, you usually get older EA titles. So you'll get, instead of Madden 22, you'll get Madden 21. But the rumor is that EA Game Pass is going to put EA Sports, so you'll get the new FIFA, the new Madden, and the new NBA. You're going to get those all day one, which would also be part of Game Pass, which it's the future of, just like.
Well, sure. If you don't have to buy the physical game and you can just stream it.
Right.
And you have unlimited opportunity and you pay a monthly fee. yeah, you're going to be more experimental. You'll try games you might not have tried because you don't play. Makes
Exactly.
a lot of sense.
And you're not streaming them. You're downloading them to your hard drive.
Oh, I'm
So,
sorry.
I mean,
Okay.
which is even better because, it's very difficult to stream video games with our current internet infrastructure. But yeah, you just download it to your hard drive and you have that game for the duration of Game Pass. And Game
All
Pass,
right, when you say your hard drive, you talking about your hard drive in your gaming console or your hard drive on a computer?
either one.
Okay.
And with the consoles, you can hook up an external hard drive too. So if you bought, a terabyte of space, you can hook that up to your console, which is really cool. And the other thing is they are trying to get so many people in to Game Pass, which is also available for PC. So if you're just a PC gamer, you can play it on your PC and you can still get Game Pass. But they have like an introductory offer where you get the first 3 months for $1. It's only $15 a.
After the introductory offer, how much is Game Pass going to be on a monthly basis?
Currently, it's if you buy it without a sale price, it's $14.99 a month, $15. So the same price as Netflix, which is pretty incredible. But
Incredible.
it's almost there's so many deals out there that you can get it for about $10 a month. And they are also testing a beta where you can play it on your iPad, your iPhone, and your Android phone. And they have little devices where you basically hook your phone into a controller and you can play on the go.
So if you were buying the game, the show, how much money would that be?
On last generation consoles like your PS4 and your Xbox One,
Yes.
$59.99. If you're buying it for PS5, it's $69.99.
Okay, and here you can play 5 months for that.
Right.
You don't need the game. You don't need to own the game.
No.
If you can download it, you kind of do own the game if you download it on your hard drive, though, right?
Basically, yeah. And like I said, every game Microsoft and
You've licensed it. I'm sorry, you've licensed it.
you've licensed it.
As
And
long as you comply with the rules and regulations, you can keep it. Okay.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's if you don't see this coming, I mean, it's like Blockbuster didn't see it coming, and Redbox, and all those things. I mean, this is it.
Yeah.
This is the way. The way has changed, and if you don't jump on board, you're paying for convenience, accessibility, and variety, as well as first-run games.
Right. And like I said,
That's why you wouldn't do it.
literally every game for Xbox that's ever been an Xbox game, going back to the 360, is free on Game Pass.
Wow.
And then there's tons of indie games that are free. All the Halos, Gears of War, like it's an incredible deal. But part of the deal is built out of the fact that they got destroyed last generation. So they're playing catch up. So their customer service and their services have to be great. But they've also made they purchased Bethesda, which makes. But Microsoft has a lot of games. They bought a lot of studios in the last 2 years too. But they don't have a lot of games coming out yet. They have a lot of promise of all these studios and what they're going to bring next. But PlayStation is still in the lead because they have, The Last of Us, which is going to be an HBO show and a huge game series. They have Spider-Man games. They have... Basically, Xbox has the services and PlayStation has the best games. But it looks like that tide may turn. So...
All right, switching gears. This is our last week leading up to the NFL draft. Any predictions? Anything new you think people need to know about?
I still really have no idea who the 49ers are taking.
Neither do I. And it just seems like, with all these different outlets and everybody making, it's funny today. I watched on the NFL Network. I watched Catch the Draft. It was the 1974 draft. All right.
Okay.
The most famous draft in NFL history. 5 players from that draft went on to the Hall of Fame. 4 of them were picked by the Steelers.
Yeah, that's a good ratio.
The other one was Dave Casper of the Oakland Raiders. Those were the 5 players that were picked. And then now, if you think about it, since Donnie Shell just got in, the Steelers had 5 Hall of Famers out of that draft because Donnie Shell signed with them as a free agent. So that's incredible. But they talked about the time. There was a guy down at the drugstore used to put out a report, and a couple brothers put out a report, but it was nothing like what you have now. This is this all led to the Mel Kipers and other people in the thing. And if you looked at the draft, Jason, it was like a chalkboard. I mean, it was like the NFL, when they did the draft, I mean, you were going up and writing names down on a big board. so people would know who was picked. It's unbelievable.
It really is.
But now there's so much attention to it because what they found out is that people, just like you've always said, people want more NFL. They want to know more about it. They want to know more of the science. They want to know how these things happen. And so there became a market for it. And then cable television with ESPN blew it up. Because you had another programming outlet that could spend time on it. And that all changed it. So it's very fascinating. So I'm looking forward to the draft. I have no idea who the 49ers are going to take. I was on the quarterback, and I have no idea who the Steelers are going to take. And it's kind of fun to watch all these mock drafts, but I'm kind of tired of them now. I don't need to see another mock draft this week.
No.
I'll watch the trade boards and see what happens, but I'm looking forward to Thursday.
And I think, I know the NBA does it to some extent, but I feel like the NBA is a bit more predictable. I don't think there's another sports draft that offers as much hope to a franchise or a fan base as the NFL draft.
Or has as much interest in the draft.
Like, even if I have, if I have the 12th pick, like I'm the Eagles this year, I'm hopeful as a fan base. If I have the 12th pick and I'm trying to think, Sacramento Kings, like, I don't feel like that player is going to turn my,
No. You're hoping you don't get it wrong.
You hope you don't get it wrong, but, like, I feel like with an NFL,
22 positions,
yeah,
there's always hope that the guy you draft fills a void and can play. Whereas in the NBA, it's 5 positions and you drafted a guard and he can't play. Guess what? He can't play one of the other positions either.
no,
In baseball, you're hoping that some guy you draft now, 6 years from now, is going to be in the major leagues.
yeah, and most people just don't pay that much attention, and and again, the NBA draft was hurt a little bit by, the one and done rule, which I think is great for the player, because I'm all about players and their rights and getting as much improvement as possible, but I don't know any, like it.
Oh, speaking of which, I have a call with overtime this week.
Oh.
So I'm going to talk to you know what overtime is, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's 30 players paid around $100,000 a year and and have an educational program, but it's designed to do nothing but prepare them to go in the NBA. So it'll take on the G League, it'll take on the NCAA, and it'll be interesting to see how it all pans out. If people really go to it, you're not going overseas, you're making $100,000, you're playing 1 year, you're going to go in the NBA, you got paid, you got some teaching about how to manage your finances, how to select an agent, all these different things. It could be a real difference maker.
Yeah, it seems like the G League should just sort of steal some of this stuff. You did see that the top Chinese prospect is skipping college and going to the G League now too.
Yep, I saw that.
Yeah, this feels like one of those innovations. Like, I know the NFL, we talk about it all the time. The NFL still won't just use Sky Judge for some reason. They poo-pooed it again this year. But I think if I'm the G League and I'm the NBA, I would look at this thing and be like, if we offered the same sort of educational thing, is a component, and stress it up a little bit more, and then emphasize that we are the direct connection to the NBA, I think they could fight them off a little bit easier.
Yeah, but if you only get $30,000 playing the G League, you're one of the top 30 picks.
Yeah, no question.
Here's an alternative, and I mean, if they do all this and really get you prepared to go in the pros, and they have a TV contract, get some exposure, and if you're one of the top 30, you're going to get the scouts are going to come watch you play anyhow. So it's going to be interesting.
Yeah,
we'll see how it goes.
Mm-hmm.
All right, another thing I know we're running a little bit long today, but I went to a concert Friday nights, and I get this big memo before we went there. You have to wear a mask at all times. You are seating in your pod. They only sold 2s, which made a lot of sense to me because it's easier to scale your arena by 2s, and people just sit with a seat in front of you, between you for the 4s, right?
Right.
So it's all 2s, wear a mask, yada, yada, yada. Okay. When the lights went down, guess what happened? Everybody wear a mask, and people sat wherever they wanted to sit because they didn't have the seats tied down like they do in an MLB park or an NBA game. They have the seats tied down, so you can't create your own pod. This was a disaster.
Wow.
This just made it was just like it was do whatever. It was like a concert that you would have went to 2 years ago. That's all. Same thing.
It makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm so disappointed on that. My food moment, Southern Fresh, a place you told me about a few years ago,
mm-hmm.
in Safety Harbor, specializing in pan-fried chicken. It was spectacular. I love pan-fried chicken, and this was some of the best pan-fried chicken I'd had. sizable roasted vegetables, mashed potatoes, and gravy. Outstanding. My only complaint was they didn't offer biscuits or hush puppies
Cornbread.
or cornbread or something that would have gone with that. So,
Yeah.
other than that, it was great. I'll go back.
Even if they offered some sort of like, southern roll or something, just,
Yes. Yeast roll.
yeah, just something, yeah. You just toss it in the oven for 5 minutes, put it on the table. I mean, that's all it takes, so.
Yeah.
But yeah, that place is great. But if you do go, I mean, if we talked about it off air, like, it tells you in the menu, chicken takes 25 to 30 minutes because they make it when you order it.
Yeah.
And they're not dropping it in a deep fryer. They're putting it in a cast iron skillet, so it's not completely soaked in oil the entire time. It's real good.
It's well worth it. I mean,
Yeah.
if you want a good meal and you can't wait 25 minutes to have it cooked to order for you, you're crazy.
Yeah, it's totally worth it.
Yeah. Totally worth it.
I think
So
sadly,
that was my entertainment. That was my food.
yeah. I don't know that I had either one. I've been rewatching Schitt's Creek, which is, everyone has heard about that show at this point. Ton of awards. It's a fantastic show,
Okay. I watched Mayor of Eastwood last week on HBO.
which I've heard is very good.
It was really, really good. And so only limited series, 7 episodes. So we're already, tonight is episode 2. So really enjoyable, really good program.
Oh, I do have an entertainment moment. On Hulu, I watched the 3-part documentary Sasquatch, which
Okay.
it premiered at Sundance and Tribeca. It probably could have been a 2-part documentary and it would have been just fine. But essentially, in Humboldt County, California, there's it's a huge, beautiful forest, redwoods, all that good stuff. But it's also one of the biggest weed growing areas in the world, or certainly in the U.S. And it's just supposed to, wherever you grow up there, tomatoes, weed, whatever it is, just grows wonderful.
Mm-hmm.
And there was an investigative journalist who, 30 years ago, in the 90s, he had these tweaker run into the cabin and said, the Bigfoot just killed 3 Mexicans. And it just stuck with him for a long time. So then he wants to go and investigate what was this guy's story. Because he was basically saying, this guy had, he had been in, he had infiltrated the Klan. He had infiltrated neo-Nazi groups. He had been in the war zones. And he said, I know when somebody is that fear. I know what the real fear looks like. And this guy had that real fear. And then it's just sort of, he basically learned what happened and what the story was. But, go into it expecting not a lot of Sasquatch, obviously.
Obviously.
But it's entertaining and it's a cool story.
Okay. Entertaining's good.
Yeah. And
All
next
right,
week,
everybody, watch the draft on Thursday night and enjoy it.
because you're getting a lot of draft talk next week.
Baseball, look for the Padres, look for the Angels. Angels aren't very good, but Ohtani and Trout are worth watching. The Padres are going to be really good. And the Padres-Dodgers series is on tonight on ESPN. The last game of the second series already. They've already played 6 games out already into the short baseball season.
Nice. All right. Until next week.